Lisa McVeigh is a beautiful 17-year-old girl who works in a donut shop. Despite her young age, she perfectly copes with her duties and finds an approach even to the most demanding and fastidious client. Having finished her shift, the girl reluctantly returns home, realizing that nothing good awaits her there. For several years, Lisa has been living with her grandmother Diane and her boyfriend Morris, using the position. The man visits the girl's bedroom every night and takes her by approaching the house. Lisa notices a strange car parked on the side of the road, but does not pay attention to this. In the morning, the girl decides to write a letter to her sister, in which she admits that she is tired of constant bullying grandmother and her man use her granddaughter, forcing her to work and taking all her salary. Lisa dreams of a normal family and a good attitude towards her, but so far all this is impossible. A little later, she calls up her sister and Lori invites her to return. Lisa realizes that this is impossible, but her sister decides to try and tell her mother about it. Betty is not only categorically against this, but also shows indifference to her eldest daughter, asking not to cause her problems. Leaving for another night shift, Lisa runs into Morris. He reminds her to return home as soon as possible after work and, having received her salary, bring it to him and her grandmother after working her shift and finishing at 2 in the morning. Lisa says goodbye to the owner of the cafe and collects her salary. She thanks the man for the chance because it brings her closer to the dream of starting a new life. While slowly returning home, Lisa notices that a passing car has sharply turned around and began to pursue her. At some point, he overtakes her, and soon the girl again notices a car in a nearby parking lot. There is no one inside, as the armed man hid behind the van and attacked her as soon as Lisa was in front of him. After knocking the girl off her bike, an armed Bobby Joe drags Lisa into his car and threatens her with a gun. She understands that it is useless to resist, since a man can cause even more harm, and allows him to do everything he wants. After Bobby decides not to let the girl go because he really liked her, covering Lisa's eyes with a bandage and tying her hands, he decides to take the girl to his home. The bandage does not completely cover her eyes, so Lisa manages to see the interior of the car, noticing the leather steering wheel and the word Magnum on the dashboard. Upon arrival at the stranger's house, the girl sees that they are going up the steps with a green carpet and counts their total number. Lifting her head, Lisa notices that the kidnapper is a white man and he is left-handed as he holds a gun in that hand. Obeying Bobby in everything, the girl voluntarily undresses and allows her body to be admired. Without losing interest in his victim, the man pushes her into the bathroom and washes in the shower, after which he puts her on the floor and again does same thing, covering the girl's mouth so that she does not scream later. Bobby rebinds Lisa's hands and covers her eyes with a bandage, placing her on his bed, putting a gun to the girl's head. He reminds that at any moment he can take her life. Falling into a flashback, Lisa sees Aunt Carol, Uncle Jim and Sister Lori. Realizing that they are the only people who truly love her, afraid to tell the truth, she lies to Bobby and says that her name is Carol and she is 20 years old. The next morning, the grandmother goes to the police station and reports that her granddaughter is missing. Soon the officer visits Betty and reports what happened, but the mother reacts indifferently to the news, believing that everything is in order with her daughter. As they panic for nothing, Lori knows her sister better, so she asks the policeman to find Lisa because she would never run away without warning her about it. Once again immersed in the events of the past days, the girl recalls how she first ended up in her grandmother's house. Diane personally warned her granddaughter that her man Morris would use her and reacted to this terribly calmly. In the present, Bobby climbs onto Lisa again to take enjoy of the beauty. She understands that the man is suffering because many women have hurt him in the past. Using psychological techniques, she asks for forgiveness and touches the man's face, showing sympathy for him. This catches Bobby and he unties Lisa's hands. Detective Lopez continues the search for the missing teenager and arrives at the cafe where she worked until yesterday. The owner of the establishment speaks well of the girl, but notes that she was in a bad mood and could harm herself. Meanwhile, Bobby is making a sandwich for Lisa and hears a news story about a missing underage girl. He realizes that she is lying to him about her age, but Lisa does not confess, continuing to insist that she is Carol and she is almost 20 years old. Believing the girl's words, Bobby again spends time with her. A little later, Lisa asks to go to the toilet and forces the man to go out to be alone. As soon as he leaves, the girl locks the door and touches the furniture in the bathroom, leaving her fingerprints on it. Looking around, she notices and remembers every detail, hoping that she can survive and tell the police about everything. Soon Bobby notices that the door is locked and becomes angry, but Lisa manages to open the lock and ask for forgiveness for this, having again resorted to psychological tricks. The girl calms the man and notices that there is a telephone not far from her. At night, when Bobby is sleeping, Lisa decides to use the phone. The man notices this and threatens her with a gun, influencing the psyche. Lisa tells the story that she has a sick father and she is the only one who can take care of him. At the same time, she recalls the last conversation with her mother when she told about the horrors that she has to endure every day in her grandmother's house. Betty was well aware that Morris was using her daughter, but she was not against it, believing that Lisa deserved it all. Continuing to leave evidence in the kidnapper's house, the girl throws a hairpin and a tuft of hair under the bed. When the man again tries to take advantage of Lisa, she shows sympathy and regret. She then remembers the day Laurie came to visit her. Morris had his eye on the young beauty, and Lisa found the gun, determined to take the life of her grandmother's boyfriend if he approached her younger sister. A little later, Bobby realizes that he can no longer keep the girl at home and ties her hands. 26 hours after the kidnapping, he decides to get rid of Lisa and takes her out into the woods, leaving the girl near a tree. Bobby puts a revolver to her temple but does not dare to shoot. Lisa persistently asks to save her life and the man succumbs to persuasion. Before leaving, he orders to keep the bandage on and wait 5 minutes. After driving off, Bobby sees Lisa running away in the rearview mirror and realizes that she disobeyed. Turning around, he goes in search of the girl, but she hides behind one of the cars. At some point, Bobby notices the police and, afraid of getting caught, leaves. A little later, Lisa gets home and tells her grandmother about what happened to her. Diane and Morris do not believe the girl, believing that she went on a spree. A man wants to punish a naughty teenager with a belt, but his grandmother restrains him because she does not want marks to remain on her granddaughter's body. Dan decides to call Officer Lopez to let him know that the girl has been found and everything is fine with her. Ignoring Lisa's claims, the grandmother tells the policeman that she was taken advantage of but dismisses it as a fabrication. Lopez decides to meet with her to interrogate and take a statement. At the police station the next morning, an officer arrives at the grandmother's house to pick up the girl before Alyssa leaves. Dan asks her to keep her mouth shut and not talk about what's going on in their house. At the police station, Lisa tells Officer Lopez about an unknown man who used her several times. The detective does not believe the teenager's story as there are no bruises or other signs of violence on her body. Lisa explains that she played along with the kidnapper to save her life, but Lopez continues to doubt the veracity of her story and leaves the office. Some time later, Detective Russell and her assistant come into the room with Lisa. Women believe that the girl will be more sincere with them and ask to tell the details of the abduction. Lisa talks in detail about the kidnapper's car and says that it lives on the second floor and 22 steps lead to the apartment. Women are amazed at such accuracy because in a stressful situation the victims of criminals do not remember such details. It is difficult for Lisa to explain that she experiences bullying every day and wanted to remember everything in order to punish the perpetrator. Realizing that they do not believe her again, the girl closes herself and asks to be left alone. Meanwhile, at the police station, a team of detectives are working on a big case. They unsuccessfully search for a criminal who deprived 9 girls of their lives. He does not have a clear handwriting of crimes because they all fell asleep in eternal sleep in different ways. Someone caught a bullet, others lost their lives due to a knife or suffocation. The only thing that unites the victims is the red fibers that were found on their bodies. After the meeting, Russell asks to speak with the girl of Sergeant Larry Pinkerton, who specializes in this kind of crimes. Deciding to check the veracity of the story, he goes to Lisa and asks her to tell about everything from the very beginning. He is the father of a teenage girl and wants to protect people like her, so he is ready to listen to the girl no matter how ridiculous her story may seem. Lisa remembers everything: a black car with 2 doors and a red interior, a leather steering wheel, and the words Magnum 22 steps with a green carpet, and the fact that the apartment is located above the office. Fingerprints in the bathroom, a tuft of hair under the bed, and the approximate appearance of the kidnapper. Larry is shocked by the detail of the story and realizes that Lisa is not lying. Laurie learns about what happened to her sister and tells her mother, but Betty is indifferent to the problems of her eldest daughter. Larry asks Morris to perform hypnosis, but the man refuses, fearing that his terrible secret will be revealed. A little later, Lisa draws up a portrait of the kidnapper from her memories and admits that Morris has been using her several years. Larry acts decisively and arrests Lisa's grandmother's boyfriend, after which the girl packs her things and leaves with the sergeant to Begin with, he settles her in the house of his friend, but the girl is afraid to sleep at night because it seems to her that Bobby will find her at any moment. Continuing meetings with Lisa, Larry learns more and more details and assumes that the kidnapper and the serial criminal are the same person. Trying to make sure of this, he sends the girl's clothes for analysis to the FBI and personally pays for the examination. Realizing that Lisa's life is in danger, Larry hastily takes the girl and transports her to a teenage protection facility. In the evening, the surgeon introduces Lisa to his daughter and the three of them have fun together in a cafe. A couple of days later, the analysis confirms that Lisa was the victim of a man, but she managed to survive. Upon learning of this, the girl agrees to go to the place where Bobby left her and, according to her memories, draws up the route of his movement. A little later, Detective Wolf spots a similar car and tricks Bobby into taking a photo of it. At night, Lisa wakes up from a nightmare because it seems to her that a man has come to strangle her. A little later, the girl looks at a photo with the suspects and identifies Bobby. The police arrest a man who took the lives of 9 girls. After examining the passenger seat, they find a bloodstain left by Lisa and realize that they were not mistaken. Later, detectives searched Bobby's apartment, finding hair, fingerprints, and other evidence that proves his guilt. Next morning, the police informed Lisa that the man has been arrested and applaud her, expressing gratitude for her help. A little later, Lisa calls her sister and thanks, as she is the only one who cares about her. Throwing away the farewell letter, the girl warmly hugs Larry and meets her uncle and aunt, who decide to take her to them sometime later. Lisa sends a letter to her mother saying that she now has a happy life with a family that truly loves her. After living with her uncle and aunt for a few more years, Lisa joined the police and became a deputy sheriff. Now she is a happy mother and grandmother, and Larry is her best friend. Bobby Joe was executed by injection in 2019.